Are you a fan of pro wrestling, comedy, and combat sports? Then we have the podcast for you because we cover that and much, much more.
Do you like to debate with your friends? Do we have the perfect segment for you? It's the 531, where we take any given subject, break it down to a top 5. From there, we debate it down to 3, and then into that number 1 spot.
If you want to get a hold of us, find us on our social medias. Search Working Fans Podcast on any major social media platform. And if you want to find the podcast, search for us on any major podcast platform, as well as YouTube.
Working Fans Podcast. We put in the work so you don't have to.
Fans, welcome back for Working Fans Presents Horror Business, episode 30. And today we are talking the horror classic Dracula. This came out in 1931, and for the rating, it just says passed. We're going to find this for a lot of these classic horror movies, these like 1930s. This was directed by Todd Browning and Carl Freund, hour and 15 minutes. And the money on these, I'm going to wonder about because it says it has a budget of $355,000, which I can believe. But it says the gross worldwide is $85,204. I would have to think it made more, but that's just what was listed on IMDb. This movie is after a harrowing ride through the Carpathian Mountains in Eastern Europe. Renfield enters Castle Dracula to finalize the transferal of Carfax Abbey in London to Count Dracula, who is in actuality a vampire. Renfield is drugged by the eerily hypnotic Count and turned into one of his thralls, protecting him during his sea voyage to London. After sucking the blood and turning the young Lucy Weston into a vampire, Dracula turns his attention to her friend Mina Seward, daughter of Dr. Seward, who then calls in a specialist, Dr. Van Helsing, to diagnose the sudden deterioration of Mina's health. Van Helsing, realizing that Dracula is indeed a vampire, tries to prepare Mina's fiance, John Harker, and Dr. Seward for what is to come, and the measures that will have to be taken to prevent Mina from becoming one of the undead. Now, this is a classic horror movie. If you haven't seen this, I definitely recommend checking it out. Bela Lugosi is on another level as Frankenstein. Or as Dracula, I'm saying Frankenstein. Helen Chandler is Mina. David Manners plays John Harker. Dwight Fry plays Renfield. Edward Van Sloan plays Van Helsing. Herbert Bunston plays Dr. Seward. Frances Dade plays Lucy. Now, this got an IMDb rating of 7.4 out of 10. And pardon me while I burp under my breath. But what I'm also going to do above my breath is bring you those mid-show reads. Because we are brought to you by the Pro Wrestling Vault, Volume 1, written by Vinnie Barry. And that is available at Wrestleville.com, where you can also pick up Lance by Chance, Wrestling is Yvonne Eric. Now, all the following books I'm about to list off, you can pick up at Amazon.com, including Super Vows and Pas de Deux, written by friend of the show, Kevin Kelton. I'll Be Here All Week, and All That's Left, written by friend of the show, Ward Anderson, as well as a stand-up special. Blood and Fire, the unbelievable real-life story of wrestling's original Sheik, written by Brian R. Solomon. How Not to Suck at Comedy, written by Pat Oates. Matt Memories, written by John Arezzi and Greg Oliver. If you're an artist in the Connecticut area or surrounding areas and are looking for studio time, check out the great people over at Connecticut People Records. They can get you set up. And if you want to set yourself up with some fun watching on YouTube, check out New Heights Wrestling. Dave and I do the commentary there. Now, As far as Dracula, I feel it still holds up. A lot of these older movies, they barely go over an hour, like maybe an hour and 15. They don't overstay their welcome. Now, we love ending on the fun facts. Among the living creatures seen in Dracula's castle in Transylvania are possums, armadillos, and an insect known as Jerusalem cricket. The insect was common in Southern California, which may explain its cameo in the film. The inclusion of armadillos was due to the fact that armadillos had occasionally been seen digging in graveyards, which led to the mistaken belief that they would dig their way into coffins and eat the cadavers. In the scene where Dracula and Renfield are traveling to London by boat, the footage shown is borrowed from a Universal silent film called The Stormbreaker. Silent films were projected at a different frames per second speed from from those later adopted for sound films, accounting for the jerky movements and quicker than normal actions of these shots. Bela Lugosi was so eager to repeat his stage success and play the Count Dracula role for the film version that he agreed to a contract paying him $500 per week for a 7-week shooting schedule, a paltry sum even during the days of the Depression. In fact, his salary was only one quarter that of David Manners, who played Jonathan Harker. However, that fact may be misleading. Although David Manners earned $2,000 a week, he likely didn't pocket all that money. Manners was under contract to Warner Brothers / First National, which had loaned out their contract player at a rate considerably higher than the performer's weekly salary. Hence, much of Manners' salary went directly to Warner Brothers First National. And the final fact I got for you this week was the original release featured an epilogue with Edward Van Sloan talking to the audience about what they've seen. This was removed for the 1936 release and is believed to be lost. And I imagine it is similar to the scene, similar to the guy coming out to talk about the Frankenstein movie before it kicks off. And you will find out about what I think about Frankenstein tomorrow, the 28th, Saturday, the 29th. We're doing the Wolfman. Sunday, the 30th, we're going to go a different kind of classic, and we're going to do the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original. Monday, the 31st, Halloween, we have a special surprise for you, and you got to tune in to find out what it is. But like, rate, review, subscribe wherever you can. Hit that notification bell so you know when these videos come out. And we will see you again tomorrow, where we get to talk Frankenstein.